Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show. Glad to have you guys here on this 31st, last day of January 2024, a Wednesday. Thank you for tuning in. Now, I'm going to try to explain what's going on in America right now. It's not a civil war, but it's something very big, and I'm going to use an illustration to explain it to you guys, what's going on. Picture if there's a household, husband and wife, and they have 4 kids. And the kids are always pretty obedient, well-behaved, because the parents work together to enforce the rules. The rules being like the laws in a country, for the children. And so what happens, though? It comes along to a period in time when the husband and wife are not getting along good. And they're arguing and bickering and having fights every evening. So this goes on for month after month, and it gets worse and worse and worse until the end. I mean, it's just, they're throwing stuff in the end, But then one morning, the husband gets up and he's making his breakfast and he says to all the kids, and they've always had strict rules in the house, especially around what they eat. The husband says to the kids, guess what, kids? You guys can have ice cream and candy for breakfast. Yay, we can have ice cream and candy. This is a serious breach. This is a fissure, if you will. Now it's affecting the children in the household. They don't know where they stand any longer. Daddy said we could have ice cream for breakfast. When the mother gets up, she's mad as heck. You know what I mean? And so this is a fracture. A fracture in the law itself. The law of the household. And this is exactly what's happening in the United States right now. This is a fracture. I was watching the governor of Texas last night and listening to the things he had to say. And I've also been listening to the Biden administration, things they have to say. And this is a long-term division between these two sides. And now it's starting to basically affect the children. And, let's face it, we're all really adults. We're not children. I use this analogy as being children, as to they look to the adults to solve all the problems. And this is what people look to in their government, to solve all the problems. And things function properly, provided that the government has a consistent set of laws and they're all in agreement across the entire nation. And if you look at the Pledge of Allegiance in the United States, it says, for liberty and justice for all. That's a simple sentence. Liberty and justice for all. It's not liberty and justice for the very few who are in power. It's liberty and justice for all citizens, all equality under the law. But what starts to happen is when they start to bicker and fight over what the law should be, it's just like the household when the father and mother are bickering over what the rules should be for the children. This is why the children are eating ice cream and candy for breakfast. So, when you start to get that kind of a division in a country, you got to take a look at it, just like the household, the husband and wife, yes, something could happen, and they might start to get back together and start to enforce the rules for the household. Maybe he'll bring her flowers or something, and they'll settle their argument. But what do you think the chances are of this argument getting settled within the political structure? Now, you're going to have to answer that question. Is it going to continue, and is it going to get worse? Or is it going to get settled? Because if it doesn't get settled and it continues and it gets worse, it's going to put an effect of massive strain on the entire system and on the people who are governed by that system if it continues to get worse. So this is like almost for the structure of a nation. This is almost like drinking a cup of poison, And so You think it's bad now? If it goes down that road, it could get a whole lot worse. And how did it end for the husband and wife in that illustration I gave you? Well, it ended in divorce, and the kids got separated, and they got separated, and the kids got split up, and everything gets just turned into a total mess. Once it got to that point, I think they call it irreconcilable differences. And this is part of human nature, is this irreconcilable. Anyway, I got to get moving on here. I got a lot to talk about. And what makes this whole thing even worse is the fact that we're in a period where we're at the brink of massive war around the world. The war's breaking out here, there, and everywhere. They're thinking about retaliating against Iran. And here what we have here, it says Iran warns it will retaliate if Biden says he's decided on how to respond to the killing of 3 U.S. soldiers. So if they start it, Iran's going to be right in there, and they're not going to back down. It says an Iranian official on Tuesday night warned that the country will retaliate against any attack, hours after President Joe Biden said he has made a decision. So they're ready. The Iranians. I was talking about this the other day on my show, and I was saying that top missile technology around the world, it's an awful lot cheaper than it is to build an aircraft carrier. The amount of work involved in building an aircraft carrier, it's an awful lot cheaper to blow it up with a missile for these countries. And don't underestimate these new missiles that they have. They can fly like 1,500 miles, and well, maybe not quite that far, maybe 1,000 miles. I think it's 1,600 kilometers or something like that, these mid-range missiles. And they got hypersonic technology now. They're awfully hard, especially if you're on an aircraft carrier, and say you got 4 of those bad boys coming in at you from 4 different directions. I mean, yeah, they do have systems on board to take down missiles and stuff, but this is the new modern asymmetrical warfare. Not only that, these missiles fly faster than Mach 8. You know how fast that is? Thousands and thousands and thousands of miles an hour. Not the simple missiles like the Houthis have been firing. They're an awful lot easier to take down because they're not traveling at these unbelievable rates of speed, and they do not have an evasionary technology like these really expensive missiles. Are a totally different animal. The missiles that only certain countries have them. Russia has them. China has them. I think Russia has them in the Kinzhal missiles, and China has China's really advanced in this technology, way ahead of a lot of other countries. And Iran has these missiles now. Don't underestimate what they might be able to do. With now, if that wasn't enough, and here war, absolutely, guys, war will strain this relationship that I was talking about at the start of the show with this fracture that's occurred. Whenever you hear people arguing over the law or interpretation of the law, this is part of this fracture. The fracture is occurring in the law itself. And who is going to be able to administer this law? They're fighting over who's going to administer it. In other words, like the parents, in the household, the husband and wife are fighting over, he says, I have every right to let the kids have ice cream for breakfast. I'm their father, sort of thing, right? This is what's going on. And so war is only going to intensify this. If they think war is the solution to take us to war, so it'll cover all this up and make this mess better, it's only going to intensify it, make things worse. But at the same time, we get the enemies at the gate. They'd love to take advantage of a country that's that's broken down the middle. They just love that. They're just waiting for that. That's their dream. to see America go down and collapse. That's their dream. And they can waltz right in. You know, they can switch places. For all these years, they've been working hard in the factories over there in China, you know, grinding it out day after day after day, you know, and just work. They got a tremendously powerful work ethic. And they worked in these factories to make all the goods we use, all the shoes we wore, everything you buy at the dollar stores, all Chinese, everything that they were manufacturing left and right. And a lot of them become rich from this. Well, heck, they pulled in over $1 trillion in savings in U.S. Treasury bonds, China did, in U.S. Treasuries over that period in time. So, yeah, they got a tremendous work ethic. But they would prefer it if we were the ones doing all the work and they were the ones being able to have a trade deficit for a change. You know? Yeah, sure. Have us be slaving in the sweatshops for a meager living, just enough to pay for our food. You know, and they could be the boss sitting on a big pile of gold over there. You know, and they haven't give up that idea. You know, China's got like 20,000 tons of gold, and so does Russia, and it's the United States got. You know, if you look at the official gold records, it's almost laughable. The official gold records will say that the United States has the most gold of anybody on Earth, stored at places like Fort Knox. There's never been an accounting or anything. We don't know what they got there. It could be just a bunch of old stuff from World War II surplus. It might be like going into a World War II surplus. Yeah, they might have some of that gold that's left over when they confiscated the gold back in the day. They might have a little bit of that left in there, in dusty bins someplace. But you know, the Chinese got their bars. I can just tell you right now, they got them all stacked nice and neat, all these kilo bars. Probably a whole big, it probably would just shock you and be amazed if they took you in and showed you their gold. Your jaw would drop open. You'd be like, oh my gosh. He who has the gold makes the rules. That's the old saying, you know. And Netanyahu, he's refusing to withdraw from Gaza or release prisoners. Israel Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu today rejected two key demands Hamas has made during their indirect ceasefire talks, saying Israel will not withdraw from Gaza Strip or release Palestinian prisoners held in Israel. Speaking in a religious pre-military academy in the occupied West Bank on Tuesday, he repeated his vow to keep fighting until they have absolute victory. Well, I heard that they've been working down in those tunnels, and tunnels go for miles, and they're never going to be able to clear all those tunnels. Hamas. Now in Germany, they're still providing aid packages to Ukraine, including helicopters, APCs, and missiles to Ukraine. Germany has handed over a new military aid package to Ukraine that includes missiles for air defense, all-terrain vehicles, armored personnel carriers, 24 armored personnel carriers. It just goes on. Missiles, a bridge paver, one Bieber bridge paver with spare parts. 3 tanks, 4 special devices for demining tanks, over 1,155 millimeter artillery rounds, a system against sea mines, SATCOM video surveillance system, 4 vehicles for the border guard service, and 450 snow chains, 194,000 individual dry rations. That must be MREs. Now, silver price today. We're seeing an uptick in the price of silver today. It's up 12 cents. 23.26. So we're getting near that That's what it's been doing, going up to 24, and then it drops back down to 22 or 21.50, and then goes back up to 24. It's been doing that over and over and over again. So we're getting up near that 24 range in price right now in silver. How long, much longer can they continue to do that? I think until sometime in March. I think there's going to be some sort of a crisis in March that revolves around probably the you see these banks out there right now are got so much malinvestment. They've invested in things like one of the things is commercial real estate. Big malinvestment in the banking system, and this bank term funding program ends in March, and that's the only thing that's been keeping them afloat. They've been dipping into Fed's money, paying it on the Fed's been paying all their bills. And how can banks make any money? They make money from making loans out. And if that's all drying up and they're saying, okay, we ain't making loans unless you got absolutely the best credentials on earth, and then they'll still make loans to people who have immaculate credit, and but if the average Joe or business out there can't get a loan any longer, that's how banks make money. How do you think they make record profits in a year? Banks, you heard all those years they were making record profits. They were making a lot of loans. They're loaning to anybody who had a pulse. Now a lot of that's coming back, and the credit card companies the same way, lend to anybody who's got a pulse. But now America's taken out over $1 trillion in that. And a lot of them can't pay, and that's called non-performing loans. And so what happens is it puts tremendous strain on the system that way, on the banking system. March is coming around, and then they're going to have to refi. Oh boy, look out. Here it comes. Now, taking a look at Bitcoin, 43,406. Ethereum is at 2327. XRP is at 50. Is that 50 cents? 50.9 cents. XRP's been there for years, around 50 cents a piece. It seems like a typical price for them, and they've been doing that for years. It's as bad as silver, for crying out loud. They do have a few little price jumps. It went up to about 78 cents, I think, and then now it's back down to 50 again. Oh my gosh, But Bitcoin, if you're going to invest in cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin is the root of all the cryptocurrencies. And, picture it's all like a circus. This is a circus. This cryptocurrency is a circus, And Bitcoin, you got your big tent, the big tent they raise at the circus. Bitcoin is the center pole. On the center of the big top tent, they got this big pole that holds the whole thing up. Bitcoin holds the whole circus up. So that's, if you're going to invest in cryptos, Bitcoin is the safest of them all. It's your premier coin. You got thousands of them here, and I refer to it like getting out further and further away from what holds the whole thing up. And if you start to get way out here on a limb, like you can go to coin. There's hundreds. I can just keep going down that list all day. Further out you get, the more danger. Dow Jones Industrial Average, it's up 40 points on the day at 38,507. That might be a record high right now. They keep setting records almost every day with this thing as it melts up. Melts up to melt down. Honest to gosh, I'm thinking March ain't far away, guys. March ain't far away. I think something big might happen in March. We're heading toward... And this whole thing with the irreconcilable differences between the political structure in the United States. This is only going to get much worse around the elections. Oh, that could really intensify it. In the pushing it right over the humpity dumpity falling off the wall when the elections come around. You know, what a mess they got going on in that. That's a mess. That's a hot mess. Now, taking a look at these bonds, we're looking at 3.95 on the U.S. 10-year. It's down 9.9 basis points. That's a big day. And the 30-year is at 4.2. It's down 7.4 basis points. What did I hear last night? Did I hear that the Fed was basically not trying to sell that much issuance or something? There's something I heard last night. I can't remember now. Like, I have so many news articles and stuff I have to go over in a day to get the show out and everything, you know, to keep on top of whatever's happening. I heard something last night about that, their issuance, something to do with their issuance. Issuing debt or something. I'm trying to remember what. Anyway, let's move on. I'll probably have it in the next show for you guys. Probably find out more about it. U.S. dollar index 103.16, and she's fallen today. The dollar's fallen today. It's fell a quarter of a point, a quarter of a percentage point. Thank you guys for listening to my show, and we'll catch you guys in the next episode, and you guys have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.